Howdy, doctors. Welcome to our, let's call it our absurdist classroom. My name is Bauer, and some fun facts about me. I'm a 13th rate racquetball player in the arena of my own mind with a relatively healthy cholesterol, probably, hopefully. I don't actually know or care. The kind of guy who apologizes to a RoboVac when it bumps into me from behind. And I've also always had a deep fear of those horses with snakes for head and wisdom teeth for fingers and old hair for muscles and little candies for eyeballs, like little gumballs and whatnot. Whatever, you know the kind, I'm sure. Can't stand those things, am I right? Anyhow, I'm just a normal human person thing of sorts, like the rest of you, I presume. My farts come right out my ass just like your neighbors. So, while I was pooping today, I had done thunk a thought or two when I was thinking, and I thunked about starting a This Here the TubeYou channel on the This Here the TubeYou. And I think that sometimes the thoughts I have keep thunking are gunking up my poop chute, and that I'd therefore rather share the load. So come jump deep into my load with me. Oftentimes, my best ideas come while I'm pooping. But don't forget to wash your hands. Forgot to wipe. Sometimes these ideas also come when I'm spraying down my juicy flesh to rid me of some gunk via the rocket nozzle in my house standard water douchery. Or sometimes these ideas also come when I'm slurping and sucking up the old dust bunnies into a magical vacuous twirling vortex. Imagine the fun these little doodads are having in there. Truly radical. Or sometimes these ideas come when I'm just pedestrianly crunching on those weird, shiny, and cold water chunks all over the not inside floor with my precious feet bones and toes and shoesy woozies, as all the cool kids say. Well, who's cool now? Or when I'm patting down the old fur babe looking for weapons, or to see if she's still smuggling all that cocaine. Where are the drugs, you monster? Think of the children, I mean, Anyhow, enough about me. I mean, enough. Move on. It's like we get it. No, seriously, why am I doing this? Aside from the fact that I'm a serial exhibitionist, constantly hosting cereal tasting exhibitions all over the world, I have always had so many ideas in the past considering things I'd love to do if I could, such as to make a watch so technologically advanced that it tells me what time it will be in an hour, or even 2 hours from now on the more advanced models later down the line. Or to make a space-saving, half-sized tent called a Fived, or a legitimately good idea where we make a Tinder-like app but without all the dicky-pickies and booty calls called Taste Buddies, that's about making buddies through cooking exchanges where the two people meet up and make family recipes or personal food creations for one another, with the name being an obviously clever play on the words taste buds. Or I also thought about calling it Swapping Spit, but maybe that's better left for the serial exhibitionists. Anyhow, I digress.
Often.
Above all, one day, I just spread my cheeks to the universe. I really put them floppy things straight out there. Spread them and forget them, I said. Then, it hit me like a ton of dicks. What is my favorite thing in existence? Well, besides avidly practicing how to make fart sounds with my armpits, ooh, right out the gate, mostly practicing on the weekends and in my free time, I also love to learn. I love to learn so much. Now, I don't know jack shit. The person named Jack Shit, I don't know who that is. But I do know that the best way to learn is to teach. And remember, my favorite thing is learning. And learning anything, really. And seeing as, after my most recent move, I'm no longer in the classroom as a teacher, or what I like to call a chief learner, I took one look at starting the TubeYou channel and thought, wow, that sounds time-consuming. Oh yeah? Well, so is eating a clock, you dingus. Essentially, this channel will be about everything I wish I could have taught in the classrooms in all my years as a teacher that I really couldn't. All for various reasons, sure. But this time, with hopefully a much wider reach and with way less emails, deadlines,
Children.
Hi, Josh. You see, to me, everything begins with a question. Even the universe began as a question of simply, what if everything? So again, why is this channel? Great question. Failed wink. I frequently get disturbingly strong urges to create my own worlds, and I also believe, in a sense, that recording my thoughts in more concrete ways could act as a sort of desperate yet important to me attempt to infinitize their existences to some degree, as well as chart their paths of development over and throughout time. My favorite thoughts are almost exclusively within the realm of political philosophy, and most of them I find to be interesting. God, imagine not finding your own thoughts interesting. Get f***ing smurfed. That'd be squirrel hibernation amount of nuts. So, I assume this channel will mostly be a way for me to explore political ideas and possibilities with all of you. And I mean with all of you, as I'll very much be using your input, feedback, criticisms, mindless shit-talking, etc. to steer what I present and how I go about doing so. I plan to use all of you, in a sense, for helping me learn more along my own rambunctious journey of chaotic extrapolations and the like. See, I view politics as the happenings all around us, the complex material nature of human interactions, the formations of cultures and identities, the ideologies we are all subjected to. Politics alone is all of it, sure, but political philosophy is the discourse, the steering wheel that must be built before navigating the proverbial gas guzzler of politics. My political philosophies inform my politics, but the happenings of politics require me to sharpen, expand, and approach my own said political philosophies, put up against those I come across in research, as well as those I'll ideally be exposed to because of y'all. This is not me asking you to expose yourselves to me. Leave the exposing of oneself to my serial exhibitions. These philosophies I encounter are made, therefore, much more important to me than politics itself, despite being nothing but extravagant mental expeditions without an accompanying politics of the material world. In a word or five, the ideal cannot exist without the real, but the ideal is the only thing that makes the real worthwhile, that makes it materialize in a worthwhile way, a really ideal way. Politics the action, political philosophy the guide. Politics the means, political philosophy the end. Until the next synthesis, of course. A step taken towards utopia is nothing without a direction. Political philosophy wins out in the end as more important because it is also weighted as being an action in everything else. Thinking is, after all, a participatory, intentional act. But I digress. Again.
Often.
I am doing this channel because the world is politics, and politics is the world. And I want to examine this in a much more structured way than I have been, forced to be held accountable to the ideas I attempt to adopt as my own by the test of the public forum. I'm not sure if it was always this way, politics as the world and vice versa, but it is this way now, and I'd love nothing more than for this channel to explore precisely all that entails.
I've also heard that politics is really just anecdotes. At least that's what I've heard.
I see political philosophy as the process of deciding the right action, and political science as the enacting of it. I want to be able to better decide the right actions because f*** is pretty shitted up right now, and I don't like it. I've been diving headfirst into this poop storm of theory my entire adult life. In classrooms, in front of homely fireplaces, at university, as a student, as a teacher, in line at the cash register with a drunken racist, etc. And I aim to bring you along on this tortuous and sometimes torturous journey. Why make this channel? Because people won't or don't understand what they don't like. And they certainly don't often like what they don't understand.
Socialism.
This is, I find, most often why people don't understand things.
But I don't understand why that is. I also don't like that I don't understand it.
In summation, I'm making this here the TubeYou channel because I'm full of myself. I view my ideas as potentially important for everyone to know. I think politics are fun because I'm confused and lost, and ultimately, I just suck for being such an arrogant poser who feels insecurely that he has something to prove in a world who couldn't and shouldn't give a nugget of chunky turds less. Therefore, this. The channel, I mean. That's what I mean, I'm talking about the channel. First things first. You can expect that I'll be putting out 5 new videos each week, most likely all at the same time for your convenience on Monday mornings at 3 a.m. your local time, which I also know for reasons. Each video will be between a strict 65 minutes and 13 seconds and 102 minutes flat. That's in line with following the Code of Genghis. In these videos, you can expect a fecal mosaic of all kinds of different shit related to the political and philosophical states of the world and the human condition we're all so afflicted with. Already, I have hundreds of pages of rambling writings I've been doing the last few years, full of relatively fleshed out topics I'd love to cover, and I'm always adding to it. Most likely, I expect a recurring theme where I will shamelessly villainize the cockroach and all its tentacles over and over. Oh, sorry, I call capitalism the cockroach because it just won't die. Even though that's not fair to the cockroaches, but
Capitalism isn't fair.
I cannot unsee the disgusting truths of the cockroach, and I want you to be able to unsee them as well, to come cuddle with me in my nightmares. Considering the entire world is subject to the tentacles of, particularly late stage the cockroach,
Capitalism.
this doesn't really limit virtually anything I could address in the future on this channel, luckily. Damn, that's one omnipresent the cockroach. The overall goal is to use the sociological, biological, psychological, philosophical, mathematical, fantastical, testicle, scatological, and/or the general intellectual and surrealist tools at our disposal to invent, then invoke, then embed a system of thinking so powerful that it overrides our mechanicalized, evolutionary, and ideological predispositions.
We must use the limitless functions we naturally possess to functionally overcome our functional limitations and smash the cockroach once and for all.
Oftentimes, we just don't know what we're talking about, and neither does anyone around us. So we remain unchallenged and unchecked in the opinions we hold, which is fine unless those opinions have serious consequences, i.e. political ones, i.e. shared ones, E-I-E-I-E-I-O, Old MacDonald, you get the picture. Currently, we all find it so hard to think or even think about thinking beyond the hegemonic neoliberal narratives that abound. If you want to know what these extremely important buzzwords mean, around and find out. Stick around and find out. Stick. In our misunderstandings, we might even mean well. I'm thinking about probably most of our parental figures, colleagues, etc., and sometimes even ourselves. I desperately want all of you to know what all of these things we hear thrown around in politics mean, regardless of who you are, because I want you to be able to use the knowledge against me to hopefully offer even better ideas. I genuinely do. I find the quip, "Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?" to be a phenomenal coping mechanism for navigating life in a globally privileged position under late stage the cockroach, sure, but I also find it total bullshit when it comes to politics. I won't be happy, and spoiler alert, neither will you, if we continue on the way we have been. I don't believe any one idea or person is even capable of being fully, universally, unconditionally, objectively right, but I will never get closer to any semblance of truth of any kind, with a capital T or not, if I'm not being actively discursive and initiating these discourses, juxtaposing my ideas against others. In other words, I won't learn shit if I don't engage with other ideas against mine own. I won't evolve if I don't have to argue, in good faith of course, and no one will be happy if we all submit to the ideas of others for the sake of ease. Kindness? Maybe to a degree, but not ease. Let me start with some examples of things contrary to commonly held beliefs that we'll most likely engage with together on this here, the TubeYou channel, such as liberalism is not leftist and is actually generally bad. No one you're talking to even knows what communism is, and neither do most communists. Same with postmodernism, Marxism, neoliberalism, feminism, etc. Also, deifying and or idolizing any person or idea is a problem and nothing else. Philosophy itself is highly non-inclusive despite being something we're all already mostly doing every day without knowing it as such anyway. Things like nuance, framing, and context are everything and fucking so important. And you'll hear me talk about just this way too often. Sorry, but theists and atheists debating one another is not fucking interesting and is mostly annoying entertainment for adolescent minds, or an occasional vice in the form of guilty pleasure, I guess, but it's mostly just pointless. In fact, debate itself is not constructive, nor does it really definitively determine anything. Things like there are many types of conservatisms, despite all of them being wrong. MLK was very much a Marxist and against the reductionist cop-out colorblindness of most people who will, ideally, soon be choking on his name coming out of their throats next time. Also, a sandwich is neither sand nor witches, even if it is confusing and a disappointment every time. Which reminds me, Superman is not a question about whether something is a soup or a man. I still choose soup every time I hear it, and I'm not even that big of a fan of most soups. God, what else? I also have written here something with a plunger. Huh. I guess we'll also talk about something with a plunger, but generally we'll cover these kinds of things. In the end, I sincerely hope to make this a fun exploration of so many things, because I absolutely have an agenda to promote ideas I believe to be good or to have merit, and I wholeheartedly believe that when doing the right thing becomes mind-numbingly boring, the evil option begins to look twice as enticing. Now, if we are going to be able to have any amount of fruitful discourse, I find it critical that you know at least some of the biases I'm jumping to conclusions from. To be specific, I figure I'll just straight up list out as many of my biases as I can think of, knowing all the while that whatever I could possibly come up with is far from exhaustive, ever, but I really do find it important for you to know more about what to expect. Where to start? I guess I'll start with some generic labels, such as that I feel I'm more of a socialist than a communist, statist more than anarchist, a fun blend of absurdism, pragmatism, leftism, and anti-the-cockroachism. I greatly prefer criticizing ideas as opposed to idols or people. My various obvious privileges and therefore biases, such as white, cisgender, male, heteronormative, able-bodied, born in the imperial core, financially stable enough to do dumb shit like this, English-speaking, grew up in a loving household, etc. Oh, and
So funny and cute.
and the accompanying blind spots and indoctrinations of being born into all these privileges. I'm not all that bent on the idea that humankind as a whole species is necessary or a miracle or special, but as long as it exists, I'm about helping out. I have a background of drug and alcohol addiction and have been sober since the 11th of October 2007, and also believe that not everyone has to be, and that drugs should be legalized and treatment socialized. I find virtue signaling and performative identity politics harmful, pointless, and cringeworthy, but sometimes understandable, under neoliberalism especially. Whereas, though, I am all about social justice, intersectionality, holding people accountable, etc., and pro-political correctness, but more on a personal level, as I, again, personally believe it to be overwhelmingly good and a very simple goal to at least work towards, and so do most of my closest peers. We just wouldn't call it political correctness, as it's such a tainted and stupid way of describing it, as it's more of a basic level of bare minimum human decency to want to learn and be taught to use more kind language. When it comes to others, I usually, with nuance and context, try to take the approach of listen to their heart and accordingly judge how best to address any situation with the aim of being positive growth over negative bullying. pointless judging, detrimental exclusion, and performative woke scolding within reason, and again, with nuance and context. I mean, f*** Nazis at the very least. Hit them. Do it. For example. Oh yeah, my biases. I overwhelmingly prefer restorative and transformative justice over retributive justice, but I also wouldn't necessarily stand in the way of beheading some truly evil people. I tend to focus on the collective and the material environmental reasons as opposed to the individual, but I still very much believe in some integral elements of personal responsibility. I prefer earth tone colors. I think dogs and cats are equally dope. Enough. Move on. It's like we get it. I'm a proponent of ethical eating. I'm much less ethical than I make myself seem, and so are you. I self-deprecate as a defense mechanism. I'm a prophet of Genghis. I believe most modern high art is total fucking drivel. I also think logic and facts only get us so far, and I think I can prove it. Etc. Wow, get a load of this bidet nozzle, huh? Someone needs to cap my bias hose because it's flinging around like it would under a first aid volunteer firefighter at Burning Man. Anyhow, everyone has them. Biases, that is. If someone says they don't, or that they're fully objective, they're actively lying, totally ignorant, or much more commonly, both, which makes them the worst kind of asshole. One with unjustified confidence, definite idiocy, and a complete lack of self-awareness. Whew, really, what a doozy, doctors. You know what? At the risk of sounding kind of desperate, I'd genuinely like to ask you to comment below what some of your biases are. And I mean this seriously. Even if this video is old by the time you see it, I'd still love to see how my most likely still tiny audience is evolving, who I'm attracting, and how I can better structure my messages, or let's very charitably call them lessons. Think of this as teacher feedback, the kind I wish I would have gotten much more of from students when teaching, especially coherent and constructive feedback. Anyhow, what you can expect from the TubeYou channel is that I aim to get right up in there, like way up in there, and deeply explore the deepest deep depths of this kind of shit. You know, the way I see it, we all think almost entirely in reference to this weird, ethereal, inscrutable overness, a sort of intangible, amorphous, mercurial ideology. Holy shit, what an adjective overdose. That has masterful marionette-like control of all of our thoughts, and even functions. What is the real of it all, and what can we do about it? This is a sort of reference question, broadly speaking, which I hope to be able to return back to over and over with each topic I end up picking apart like a soon-to-be bloody pocky butt zit on a Sunday morning in front of a bay window at street level in downtown, say, Buenos Aires. Enough said. Who might the TubeYou channel be for? I don't not hear you not asking. One thing's for sure in 7 years, it's probably not for the cockroachists. They're still welcome for their own sake and not ours, I suppose, but I plan on trying to speak to different audiences. Above all, I'm really hoping to catch all the nihilistic, uninterested, disinterested, misinformed, disinformed, doomerist, apolitical, confused like the rest of us, and or absurdist gaggles of giggly geese doctors out there. The me's without the philosophies, if you will. The bees without the knees. The trees without the leaves, if you will. Will you? The main audience I aim to cater to and hope to attract are those rebellious absurdists on the brink of full nihilism, uncomfortable with too much seriousness and unwilling to take a principled stand on anything, whether out of fear or convenience. Condescending? Maybe. But why would they give a shit? Heh, gotcha. I get it though. I certainly don't give a shit during the frequent times I enter that mode, but give me a chance to see if I can convince you of anything, even just one thing. Or, even better, if you can convince me of something. In fact, I'd probably prefer that. I'm selfish with my learning that way. Sometimes I feel as though my whole life is just a series of songs getting stuck in my head. These songs are often in the form of meandering thoughts, and my goal is to torture each and every one of you by trying to get these songs marinating in your tenderized head meats as well. See, we are all mostly taught that the real battle is between the now worldwide QAnoners and the wokists. But no, stop, knock it off, child, as my mother would say. Maybe that is a battle. It's at least a perfect distraction on behalf of the cockroachists from making any real progress, but it couldn't possibly be further from being the battle. See, I take the position that the two best manipulative tools for converting people or convincing them of anything is one, to argue their positions better than they can, and two, be able to make fun of one's own positions better than they ever could. For example, my constipated baby position I'm sitting in right now. I'll likely expand on this very approach at some point in the future, as I find it to be pretty core to my overall approaches to adding the political to the philosophical when out and about in the goings-on of the big wide world. My goal becomes to do this to you, which I know sounds so violating, but I love the idea of disturbing the comfortable and comforting the disturbed. Plus, I've already filmed myself on the toilet. I'm being vulnerable myself, okay? So meet me halfway. Listen, if you want to feel bad, read the news. If you want to feel better, stop reading the news. If you want to feel good, critically analyze all the news you read and positions you come across against a backdrop of many texts and ideas you may also have been engaging with that can heavily supplement, enrich, and allow this process to take place. Disagreement without an understanding of what one is disagreeing with is futile and unserious. Hyper-rational and overly dogmatic Enlightenment approaches to everything only illuminate the next mysteries. There is no end-all be-all there. Rationality is only a tool, a lens, not a universally dependable lifestyle. One can rationalize anything if they are rational enough. Essentially, I want to emphasize the importance of asking questions, even when it's difficult, annoying, or seemingly pointless. Even especially when it's difficult, annoying, or seemingly pointless. I love little else than when people are brave enough to ask questions. I don't love that it is considered brave to ask them. If you're one of those who yearns down in the nether sphincters of the abyss to ask questions, then I prangus so hard to Gordon Jengus that you fuck around and find out. Stick around and find out. I have a stick in the bed, whatever. Well, look at the little red line below with the time on it, you dingus tree. Don't be a drangle-ridden follower of Loingus and get smurfed, you f***ing smurfinator. Knick-knack. Give a dog a bone here, please. I'm trying my best to get on with it. And like you, I am well aware that I am failing. We're in this together. In terms of responsibility, I'd like to think that most or even all choices not made in haste are carefully measured. So hold me accountable. But be fair and kind for both our sakes and that of the world's, the one we're striving to change in our own ways. I may have a really sharp hairline, but that doesn't necessarily translate to cognitive ability. I just want to learn, and so should you. Overall, I want to be two things: interested and interesting. Not passionate and cool, or boring and ridiculous, or anything else. Just these two things, simultaneously. To be just interested or interesting on their own spells disaster. And if you feel I'm not living up to this, help me out by letting me know. You can be harsh, as long as it's also clever. Now, I'm sure to be more than only these two things, but I want to at least also be both interested and interesting. If we can pull that off, the rest of life's joys are sure to follow. I'm certain of it. Well, what time is it? It's 25:63, 1 p.m., you snarky swan. That means it's time to get this party farted. And remember, every day is a new day to eat ice cream. So there's that. And that is pretty dope. Olive juice. Whew, we made it. I'd like to thank the Academy of Stench-Ridden Underarms and Faux Fur. I assume that in the future this is where I'll be saying things along the lines of special thanks and whatnot. Maybe also remind everyone that dads can be sluts too, just like anyone else, and we shouldn't rob anyone of their own journeys towards self-sexual empowerment. Oh, if this channel ever miraculously gets to the point where I have a Patreon sort of thing, it would make sense to put all that bagunk here, right? What if even one day we get sponsorships? Right now, I'd say I'd absolutely take a sponsorship or 3 or more. If I ever do though, please, and I mean f***ing please, don't ever buy anything I would supposedly be promoting. Even if I say I support it and swear that I do, I don't. I really don't. Don't ever imagine me feeling any other way than this. Seriously. But I'm far from being above taking money from people, that's for sure. I'd happily do that with some very mild ethical restrictions, sure. I suppose I could at least thank some people here anyway, take it for a test run. I definitely have people I'd like to thank, and who more than deserve it. And you know what they say, where there's smoke, you're on fire, or something like that, whatever. Anyhow, I'd like to thank my partner for being the most supportive being and entertaining even my most disgusting and blatantly nonsensical ideas, and for forms of support both within and beyond the realms of accessing with mere language. I'd love to thank JH for lending his galaxy-sized genius to me at the expense of his very limited free time to walk me through so many aspects of doing something like this, as well as creating the sickest toilet-oriented soundscapes known to humankind. My endless thanks goes out to the mysterious Kay as she edits the living Pop-Tart out of all this and has been the most patient, helpful, understanding, dependable, and talented person I couldn't even dream up in one of those make-your-own-editor tech labs in the emerging cloning sector. My final thanks goes to my family for always putting up with me, as well as literally putting me up for all those years. To the rest of you, I hope you f*** around and find out. Prangus and cheers.